Today, we're going to be taking pictures with a 110-year-old camera. Should be a lot of fun. Let's get started. Hey, thanks for joining me. I've been wanting to do this project for several weeks, and the weather just has not cooperated. And today it's kind of cooperating. It's sunny out, which is what I needed, but it's really windy. The winds are in the around 20 mile an hour with gusts into the 30s, and so that's going to make it a bit challenging, but I decided, I'm going to just give it a try anyway, and we'll see how it works out. So the camera we're shooting today is this Seneca No.3 4x5 camera. It was originally made for 4x5 glass plates. I added a shim to the back of the ground glass holder to space it out a little bit so I could use sheet film holders in it. Got the back focus, I think, worked out correctly. This camera is a really neat old camera. It's got a Seneca Duo dust-proof shutter. The lens is a Seneca Rapid Rectilinear, which is one of the earliest symmetrical lenses. Really was a very popular design of lens for a number of years. This camera model was made by the Seneca Camera Company in Seneca, New York between 1906 and 1912. So this camera has been around a while, 110-ish years. Amazingly good condition. The leather on the bellows is still nice and soft. This black lacquer piano finish that they used on it is just in really beautiful shape. Let me lock the shutter open here. So, as you can see, you can actually see an image through it. But this piano finish that's on this black lacquer, it's just amazing. Leather's not in too bad a shape, the outside leather, but the camera just is in amazing shape. When I got this at an antique flea market, paid like $35 for it. Really was cheap. The shutter works. The glass was clean in it. Didn't even have to clean it. It is an air bulb shutter, so you actually use an air bulb to fire the shutter. So you can put the air bulb on, you cock the shutter, and then you can squeeze the bulb to fire it. And so that's how it works. Pretty cool. The air bulb part didn't work. I think somebody had put the tube on here and was blowing in it to fire the shutter. They got some moisture in the tube, the little piston that fires it inside, so I had to clean that up. But other than that, the shutter just works amazingly well. Got a little viewfinder up here. You can raise the cover on, and you can look down in the viewfinder and see your image, and the viewfinder will flip up for verticals. It's got a footage scale that you can actually use for zone focusing. It does have limited movements. You can see here there's adjustment for rise and fall, but there's no tilts. So you can raise or lower the front standard. And like if you're shooting a building and you don't want to have to tilt the camera up and make the verticals converge, you can just simply raise the front standard and shift the image. Now this lens, like I say, is a Bausch & Lomb Rapid Rectilinear, and it was considered relatively fast in its day. So the speeds on this are labeled 8, 16, 32, 64, and 128. But those are US stops, not f-stops. So f-stop equivalents, what's labeled as F8 is really like F11. 16 is like 16. 32 is like 22. 64 is like 32. And 128 is like F45. So the f-stops, if you ever find an old camera, the stops that are labeled on these are likely not going to be the same as we have today. Now the shutter speeds on this, I tested them. They're all a little bit slow, between a third and a full stop slow. But I've got those tested, so I know what they are. I can compensate. So it's going to be really fun. I'm going to try to take this out and shoot it today. Now the film I want to shoot today, I wanted to shoot an emulsion that was similar to what would have been available when this camera was new. And I don't have glass plates or glass plate holders. So what I did instead was I got some X-ray film from the Film Photography Project. The X-ray film is kind of unique in that it's got emulsion on both sides, which is a little interesting. We'll see how that works out. But the film is orthochromatic instead of panchromatic. Now, most modern black and white films are panchromatic, and that means that it's sensitive to all colors. Orthochromatic film is not sensitive in the red range. And that's the same as like photo paper, which you can have a safe light on, which is kind of amber or red in the darkroom, and you can see your photo paper. That's what this X-ray film is like. It's not sensitive in the red range. And that's the way the film would have been at that time when this was made. It would have been common for the glass plates available at that time to be orthochromatic. And I thought, this lens was designed with that in mind. And so I thought it would be interesting to see how it performed with an emulsion type orthochromatic that was available at that time. So trying to kind of match what was used at that time. The other thing that's kind of unique about the X-ray film, and that's similar to the glass plates that were available at that time, is it's really slow. So the ISO rating on this X-ray film is a whopping 10. So, in bright sunlight, f/16, you'd be at a 1/10 of a second. That's really slow. So we're going to see how that works out. Hence the issue with the wind. If there's camera movement, a fast shutter speed is not going to help me, because I'm not going to have a fast shutter speed, not with an ISO of 10. And so, films at that time, the glass plates were not, they weren't very fast. I don't think they even had a rating system like we have today. I think when this camera was made, you bought glass plates and they were called fast or slow or whatever, but they didn't actually have a rating. So that's it. This little 4x5 camera. It's I think it's going to be really fun to use. The camera is in amazing condition considering its age. It's functional, and so we're going to take it out and take some pictures. The subjects I want to shoot, I tried to find some buildings here downtown Oklahoma City that were built around the time that this camera was new. There's a couple of churches I want to shoot pictures of, and the original OPUBCO Oklahoma Publishing Company building, which was the home of the main newspaper Oklahoma City had. I guess still has. Does anyone read a newspaper anymore? But the Daily Oklahoman was that newspaper. My dad was a newspaper photographer when I was little, and I remember going to this OPUBCO building with him to go to his office when I was pretty young. And I had a paper out when I was in like fourth grade maybe. I had a paper out, you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'd go to this APCO gas station near our house, and they'd drop off the bundles of papers, and I'd have to sit on the curb and fold all my papers and get them in the bag hanging from my bicycle, and then, drive my bike around this neighborhood that I had for my route and throw all the newspapers, and then go home, go back to sleep for a little bit, and go to school. And then in the afternoon after school, there was an afternoon paper, the Oklahoma City Times, and I would have much smaller circulation, but I'd have to do the same thing again, go get my papers, fold them, and go throw them. And so you might say I worked for OPUBCO for a while, too. So anyway, that's the three buildings I'm going to try to take some pictures of, just so you can kind of see how this lens performs. It is a nice sunny day outside, so I think exposure times will be reasonably short. And if the wind doesn't beat us up too bad, I think we'll be in good shape. So let's get out, take some pictures, and then we'll take a look at those and see how they do. The film I used for this project was this X-ray film from the Film Photography Project. Pretty slow at ISO 10 in bright sunlight. I processed this in Kodak HC110 dilution H for 3.5 minutes at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Here I am set up at the OPUBCO building. Now I ended up using some rise on the front standard on this to help verticals not converge as much. The exposures I was getting were between 1/2 and 1 second at f/32, which is actually labeled 64 on the lens. The lens delivered pretty good image quality. The film is very contrasty, but it was a bright sunny day. Here I am set up at St. Joseph's Cathedral, and I shot this vertical, so I was not able to use any movements on the front standard. Like I say, the exposures were running around 1/2 to 1 second. I was bracketing the exposures. It was very windy, so there was some trouble with camera movement, but I was able to find a good sharp image from each set. So here you can see very good image detail. I'm really just impressed with the quality of the images from this lens. Now here at the Episcopal Cathedral, again, I was able to use some rise on the front standard. So obviously the lens covers 4x5 pretty well. There was no vignetting from using the movements, and exposures again running about the same. It just amazing to me how good the image quality is on this lens, considering it's over 100 years old. Well, there you go, the Seneca No.3. Just a beautiful old camera. It's really survived well, considering its age. Just a lot of fun to use. Really had a good time taking this out and taking some pictures with it. Well, I hope you enjoyed the images as much as I enjoyed taking them. If you have any thoughts or questions, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment. And as always, thanks for watching.